In the grim darkness of the far future, even the holiday season is a battlefield of sacrifice and chaos. Welcome to this special Warhammer 40K Christmas anthology brought to you by One Mind Syndicate, where we're going to dive into 3 different tales that bring festive cheers or grim lessons to a galaxy of war. So grab your Amasek, light a purity candle, and prepare for a journey across the stars. Let's start off with the story of Wagas. Every orc down on planet Kringle liked Wagas a lot, but the Gretchens who lived on Kringle's moon did not. The Grots despised Wagas. The noise, the fear, they plotted and schemed on this festive frontier. Now why would the Gretchen despise this grand feast? Perhaps it's because they're small, green, and creased. Or maybe, just maybe, their squigs weren't fed, or their looted contraptions had failed them instead. But whatever the reason, their squigs or their kids, the Gretchen were mad and had hissy fits. They peered down from their moon with contemptuous frowns at the lights and the guttural laughter in the orky towns.
They's got too much shiny. They's got too much loot. All the bangy bang gubbins and flashy shoots. We's grots work our knuckles, we scurry and slave, while them orcs hog the glory and never behave.
So they hatched them a plan, a cunning one too, to rob all the orcs of their red and green hue. They'd loot back their loot, that's what they'll do, and put a halt to Wagas, this much was true. They cobbled a crumper disguised like a sled with a squig-powered engine painted in red. And Sliz, the grot boss, with his warty green face, strapped on some jetpacks to blast into space.
Wagas is ours,
He sneered with a grin.
We'll sneak down tonight, and then the looting begins.
So off they did, go through the darkness and muck, with Sliz at the helm, his crew full of pluck. They landed in silence, like shadows of doom, their ramshackled sledges screeching clank clank kaboom. But orcs being orcs, slept right through the sound, for they dreamed of big Daka and crumping abound. The grots worked swiftly, their hands deft and sly. They looted the presents, the squig pies, and anything that could fly. They grabbed all the shiny, the bangy, the loud, and piled it all up in their sled's rusty shroud. But just as they finished prepping to leave, a small orc boy named Gribbit tugged at Sliz's sleeve.
Oi, what you doing? That's our shiny stuff. Yous can't take that grot cake, that's going too far.
Sliz froze in his boots, his jetpack held tight, for the orc was glaring with all of his might. But instead of retreating or blasting away, the grot boss stood pondering what he had just plotted earlier that day. Was it the loot, the Daka, the festive display, or was it the madness of Wog that made him this way? Could the spirit of Wagas be something more vast? Not Daka, nor loot, nor a squig-driven blast. And as he stood there, his grot heart grew sore, for he knew that deep down he wanted something more. The Wog, it was calling, with all of its thunder, a roaring, chaotic, war-driven wonder. Sliz dropped the loot, his crumpa as well.
This ain't our stuff, lads. This is theirs, can't you tell?
The grots grumbled and growled, but heeded his call. They dropped every trinket, every bangy, every ball. And on Crinkle's moon, under a red snowy sky, the orcs and the grots found a mutual surprise. For Wagas, it seemed, wasn't about loot, but the roaring of Daka and a good crumping pursuit. So Sliz and his grots joined the feast without shame, for they had learned what it meant to play the orky game. And the orcs raised their cups full of fungus brew cheer. To Sliz and the grots, they's Wog we fear. And now on Crinkle the slaughter did ring, as orcs butchered the thieving Gretchens in a fling. For even in darkness, through grim dark and pain, the spirit of Wagas could never be slain. Now let's move on to Space Marines and the tale of Exterminatus. 'Twas the night before Exterminatus, when all through the void not a Xenos was stirring, not even an orc boy. The bolters were hung in the armory with care, in hopes that the Emperor soon would bless them there. The Battle Brothers nestled, their faith burning bright, dreaming of heretics they'd purged in a fight. And I took off my power armor, lying in chapter wraps, had just settled down for a brief and quick nap. When out on the hall there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my pod to see what was the matter. Away to the viewport I flew like a stormhawk, primed my chainsword and set my vox to talk. The void was aglow with an unholy green, a flare of the warp where corruption was seen. when what my gene-enhanced eyes should appear but a Chaos Lord's barge and 8 traitor reavers near, with a voice full of malice, so vile and profane, I knew it in an instant, it was Abaddon again. More rapid than jet bikes his followers came as he bellowed and shouted and called them by name.
Now Karnath, now Valthor, now Zyar the Cruel, on Mordrak, on Cypher, on Kirschnurgle's Ghoul, to the edge of the void to the fortress wall, burn it to ash, slaughter them all.
As last cannon blast pierced through the shield like a sigh, I readied my bolter and gave out a war cry. Up through the corridors the traitors they flew, with relics of chaos and heresies too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the deck the stomping of boots. By the throne, what a wreck! As I swung my blade, round and preparing for the fray, down came a dreadnought to join in the fray. Its frame was of adamantium, gleaming and grim, its voice like a hymn to the Emperor's whim. A weapon of promethium swung at its side, its wrath unmatched, with no place to hide. It turned to the foe, its bolter alight, and tore through the heretics with fervor and might.
By the Emperor's will, let none here remain!
It roared as it charged through the carnage and pain. The battle was fierce, the blood freely spilled, yet our faith in the Emperor was strong and fulfilled. Then through the Voxcaster came a booming decree,
"Launch the torpedoes, purge this heresy."
And I heard it proclaim as the planet did sunder,
The Emperor protects!
but his wrath is like thunder. And the last Christmas-inspired story is one of a demon whose name in the tale is different than what he actually is in 40K. Let me know in the comment section below if you know who this demon is. In this story, his name is Krampus. In the grim dark of the Yuletide night, where there's only war and no respite, there came a beast both cruel and sly through the warp storm clouds in the winter sky. His name was Krampus, bane of cheer, a demon that mortals rightfully fear. Not chaos undivided, nor just a god spawn, but a terror who crumped till the laughter was gone. The Gretchen first saw him, small and mean, hiding in the shadow, shifty and green.
Oi, boss, that thing is big and hard.
War Boss Rim just laughed.
That gets a tard. Listen here, boys.
Rim bellowed with pride.
That Krampus got's nowhere to hide. We'll crump 'em. I'm right proper. We've Daka and teeth, and then nick his loot, 'cause we the biggest and beefed.
But Krampus grinned, his clawed gleaming bright, for he lived to make even orcs lose a fight. With a swing of his sack, filled with horrors untamed, he scattered the boys, who fled, wild and maimed. The grots went squig punting, the mechs lost their boots, the commandos got ambushed, made look like fools. The war boss stood firm, his claw raised on high.
You can't crump me, you warp-born fly.
But Krampus unfazed, he whispered his curse.
Your wall will falter, your loot will disperse, your Daka will jam, your squigs will go lame, and you'll never again win a proper war game.
Then off he flew, his laughter like dread, while grots and squigs cowered, tails tucked in bed. And no, not just the orcs, even the hive world below, that the Krampus brought misery, despair, and woe. He'd punish the naughty, those weak of will, Imperials falter, their hive city still. The Arbites trembled at Inquisitors cursed, even Space Marines feared they'll soon see the worst. But in one small chapel, amidst incense and flame, a Sister Repenta whispered his name. With chainsword raised and faith burning bright, she vowed to end Krampus that night. The battle was fierce, the chapel walls bled as Krampus howled.
You'll join the dead.
But the sister stood firm, her hymn a refrain.
For the Emperor's glory, I'll endure the pain.
With a final strike, her blade found its mark, banishing Krampus to the void, cold and dark. And so the galaxy knew one fleeting cheer, for Krampus was gone, at least for this year. But whispers remain in the warp's dark gleam, that Krampus still schemes in his endless dream. So beware, ye mortals, if your heart turns grim, or you'll face the Krampus, and he'll crump you like him. And that concludes this year's special Warhammer 40K Christmas Anthology. From the bottom of our hearts, we want to thank you guys so much for being subscribers, supporters, listeners, watchers. Because of you guys, we will continue to create Warhammer 40K lore videos and have fun in this awesome universe. Merry Christmas. I hope you guys enjoy your Christmas Eve and your Christmas Day, and we will talk tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.
Oh, I used to put my